Hi, this is part 4 of the advanced rigging lesson, and we're going to add some target bones to the bottom of the legs. Right now, you know that you can make your character move at its legs by clicking on this bone and doing this sort of thing, or clicking on this bone, and even say you have at least one bone here for the foot, and you can do this sort of thing, right? And you've got a lot of flexibility, right? Okay, well, there's something called a target bone that can make that even easier for you. I'm going to zoom in closer to where the bottom of this lower leg bone meets up with the foot bone. And ensuring that I'm on frame 0, I need to deselect all the bones, so I can go up here to Edit and select None. All right, the next bone that we're going to make cannot be attached to any of the bones in your character. So go over to Tools and click on Add Bone, and then right at the base of this bone that's coming down here off of the leg, and holding Shift key down so that the bone will go nice and straight across, we'll click near the bottom of this bone and pull back and make a bone like this. It's very important that the next thing you do is make sure that this bone is also not selected before you make the next one. So if you need to, go to Edit and select None. And then you're going to draw another bone over here for this leg, just the same. All right. And then you can take down the bone strength on both of them by clicking over here in Bone Strength and then clicking and dragging to pull that bone strength down to nothing. Then click on the Select Bone tool, and while one of them is selected, for example, this is my back leg target bone. So I'll name this up here, leg back target, and then I'll click over here on this one and name this one leg front target. All right, so these are our two target bones. So I'll select this lower bone in the leg now. And then here in this menu for bone constraints, click on the drop down. And right here, you'll see the word target. Click on that drop down and look for me, it's front leg target. It's not showing in my tutorial window, but I've selected that there. All right, and now I'm going to close that for a moment. The next thing I'll do is click over here on this lower leg bone and then back up again here to this menu with the bone constraints. And just underneath target, now I have to choose the leg back target, which also is not showing up in my tutorial window, but there it is right there now. And then I'll close this. And you may see it in my window, and I'm sure you see it on your screen. There's like this little disc now that's just between these two bones here and here. Now I've zoomed out a bit, and let's look at what this has done so far. I'll click over here on the Manipulate Bone tool and grab one of these target bones. I guess I should zoom out more. Clicking on the target bone, it's now controlling the whole leg. Now the tricky thing about this is that if your leg bones were really perfectly straight, then you'll have a difficult time moving this, okay? And what you'll need to do is you'll have to go back to frame 0 and you'll need to click on your Transform Bone tool, and you'll need to put a little bit of an angle on this lower leg bone, the one from the knee down to the ankle, all right, so that when you pick up this target bone, it will enable you to get that bend in the knee. And even mine probably needs to be pulled at an angle a bit more so that I don't run into trouble. Because as you can see, this target bone can slide around, and when I did slide it around, it was giving me a hard time with getting the bend at the knee. All right, so I'd need to make that little adjustment. So they both do this, okay. Now let me click back and reset these. We're going to add one more thing, and we'll look at the difference between what happens with the two legs. First off, on one of your legs, click on your foot bone, select that, and then in the box for bone constraints up here, click on the drop down and choose the independent angle, and then close this up. And look at the difference between when you move your target bone and how the foot responds compared to the one where you have not selected independent angle yet. All right, so I'll move this one, and then I'm going to move this one. All right, you see how with this one there was the bone just stayed really stiff there, and with this one it created an angle in response to the movement. All right, so it ended up looking a little bit more natural. And yeah, I definitely need to fix this leg bone so that I can get the bend to happen. All right, so if you were showing a walking cycle, then this kind of thing might look a little more natural than this. That just depends on your character and how you want it to look. All right, but that's something that you can do. It's something you can add. I'll click back now, and I'll add that to this foot bone. Up in bone constraints, independent angle, and close that. All right, so now both of my feet are responding in a little bit more natural way. When you're on frame 0 and you're testing these bones out, what you'll discover is once you've set up the target bone there, that you aren't able to move these bones in the legs. All right, but once you start moving down the timeline and animating, you can move them individually if you want to. So for example, if I move down the timeline a little bit, and then let's say I move this target bone, and then I move further down the timeline, but then I grab another bone, or maybe I want the foot to sag down, then I can do that. So these target bones down here are incredibly useful. They're very helpful, and you definitely want to include these in the project for this week. If you're having any difficulties or you have any other questions, please email me.